Granny had asked her grandson for help for the fifth time, but he simply couldn't break away from the game. She then decided to take the phone away, but it accidentally fell and crashed. I hate you! The guy ran through the forest. His granny was shouting something after him, but he could no longer hear it. Kurt's parents had already gone to bed when they heard the doorbell ring. From the very doorway, the boy began to complain that his grandmother broke his new expensive phone. His father tried to comfort him and took an old Nokia out of the locker. Just for now, walk around with these, please. Kurt looked at this prehistoric device in utter confusion. He had no clue how to use it. He went to bed in a terrible mood, without even playing any games. By the way, guys, whoever had a touch tone phone, press the like button and leave a comment below. In the morning, Kurt woke up to the stupid sound of the phone's alarm. He was very sleepy, but he went to brush his teeth. A surprise awaited him in the hall. He completely forgot that today was his birthday. There was a present on the table. Kurt quickly unpacked the box, and inside that box lay his dream, a creator's laptop, Concept D9. The boy really wanted to test his new device. He remembered about his grandma. That moment she broke his new phone and decided to take revenge on her. He opened his laptop and drew the SCP object, Jack the Ripper. How he cuts his granny with his saws. Then he went to print it out and sent the envelope by mail. The head of the SCP Fund, Director Rodson, came to inspect the video surveillance post. He woke the attendant up and demanded to check all the objects. The attendant began to switch between the security cameras. Everything was just as usual, but suddenly they discovered that Jack the Ripper was missing. What the hell? Where is he? The guy was dealing with me, while the girl was setting the table. I need to go to the bushes for a second. Alright, honey. The guy peacefully stood behind the tree, calmly doing his business, when he suddenly saw two-headed Jack the Ripper. The girl heard screams coming from the bushes. Jack quickly dealt with the first victim and chased after her. She rapidly jumped into the car, but as luck would have it, the engine wouldn't start. Jack almost caught her, but she was lucky and escaped. Kurt came to visit his friend, but when the guy saw this phone, he began to joke around and laugh. Kurt felt offended again. He told his friend about his harmful granny, and together they drew another SCP object, the Plug Doctor. They mailed the envelope right after that and began to laugh viciously. The SCP Fund was immersed in panic. No one could understand where Jack the Ripper had gone. The guards were running around the entire perimeter, checking every corner. Suddenly, the duty officer noticed that the Blood Doctor had disappeared from the other cell as well. He reported the bad news to the fund's director. Rodson grabbed his heart. A happy family stocked up on food. The child was asking his mom to buy a chocolate bar. The father was dreaming of how he would eat the grilled chicken and drink some Bloxy Cola. They went outside and were about to head home when the Plug Doctor appeared on their way. Go away, we're completely healthy. No, you're sick from the plug. They inspected themselves, and it was true, plug struck their skin. Here's your treatment. The secretary ran into the Roblox president office and reported the bad news. There was an emergency situation in Roblox. Jack the Ripper was running around the streets, murdering everyone who wasn't sick from the plug, and those who got sick were treated by the Plug Doctor. People were simply turning into biomass after his medications. The president called the SCP Fund immediately and started yelling at the director Rodson. Rodson promised to solve this problem in the nearest future. A number of special helicopters departed from the SCP base to capture these monsters. Riots continued in Roblox. The police were unable to do anything. The special forces tried to shoot Jack the Ripper, but each time he was teleporting to a different place, and the Plug Doctor just healed himself with his medicine. Then the bullet wounds healed instantly. A news helicopter was filming everything that was happening. Kurt saw the news and yelled that he drew the same monsters and sent the drawings to his grandmother. Parents started to reassure their son it was just a coincidence. Let's go and check. They went to the granny, but no one opened the door. The mailman passed by and said that she was no longer alive. It turned out that when Kurt got offended and ran into the forest, she was very worried about him. She felt sick, and her old heart could not bear it. No one in the village knew her relative's phone number, so the neighbors buried the grandma in the backyard themselves. When a couple of letters with no return address arrived at the post office, the mailman put them on the grave. They ran to the backyard and found that the letters were burned. Apparently, the painted SCP monsters teleported to Roblox through the grandmother's grave. Kurt realized what he should do. He drew those monsters locked in a cage and put the picture on the grave, but nothing happened. They decided to wait for a bit. The mailman took a house key under the rug. They sat down near the TV and started waiting for good news. But the evil objects of the SCP continued to wreak havoc. When evening came and the clock struck midnight, a weird noise resounded in the